It's night time on one of Paris's toughest high-rise housing projects. This is the so-called City of 4,000. For outsiders other than the French police, it's a virtual no-go zone.
C'est un contrôle de police, monsieur. Que ça soit public ou non, bien entendu.
When the police do a random ID check here, the question is almost always the same. These young men say.
Are you of French nationality, sir?
They all say they're French by birth. Hussein is angry and says police target them because they, like the vast majority of residents in public housing projects like these, are Muslims. They're mostly the sons or grandsons of former Algerian or Moroccan immigrants.
If there were 5 guys with blonde hair and blue eyes, they would never have checked our IDs.
He says the French ideal of liberty, equality and fraternity for all is a sham.
Pour être vraiment français, faut manger du porc.
To be really French, you have to eat pork and drink wine,
Ouais, et se blanchir la peau.
whiten your skin and dye your hair blonde and wear an earring.
While some of the officers check IDs, others stand guard. Tensions remain high after riots rocked this neighbourhood and others across France in November. ID checks, seen by some as racial profiling, are a regular flashpoint for trouble.
No statement to make. You can ask the press office of the Interior Minister.
After about 15 minutes, the cops move on. Abdelkarim says things could have been worse.
They were quite nice because they saw the camera. If you hit it, it would have been different.
Ahmed, though, is in no laughing mood.
Long live France. I was born in France, so even if I'm standing out here in nothing but my underwear, I should be able to do what I want.
It's freezing cold and the group decides to cut its losses and head home. But there's no real rush to get to bed early. They have no jobs to get up for tomorrow. They've all been unemployed for months. Hussein and his friends say they took no part in the November riots, but many just like them did, burning thousands of cars and fighting running battles with the police for almost 3 weeks. It was a rerun of similar riots in the 1980s and 90s. Since then, residents say successive governments have done little to resolve their problems. Graffiti scrawled on the fence during November's unrest threatens violence against the police. Skepticism of journalists runs deep too. But after a few days hanging out and trying to overcome the distrust, I persuade Ahmed Abu Abdullah to escort me around part of the project. He warns me, though, he can only guarantee my safety from thieves and small-time gang members in a small area. Unlike many of his neighbours, Ahmed has a job as an airport baggage handler, but he still feels like an outcast.
Even if we consider ourselves French, the French don't consider us French. They may not say it, but they show it, in terms of work or lodging.
He says his parents were drawn to Paris from Algeria in the 1960s by the promise of plentiful work. Ahmed was born and raised in the City of 4,000, named after the number of apartments here. Hard to believe this was a 1960s architect's dream of affordable, stylish homes for the working class. Today, this is one of the symbols of France's urban nightmare. A ghetto where around 15,000 immigrant parents and their French-born children battle rampant unemployment, poor education, racial and religious discrimination.
They look at me badly, especially after September 11. In France, they think that all the people with beards are Islamic radicals, but you can't put everybody in the same bag.
I could find nobody on the project who would admit to taking part in November's riots. That would be inviting arrest. But I found a common feeling of desperation.
I wasn't involved in the sense I wasn't out there burning cars, but of course I share that feeling of being fed up. It's hard to explain. In France, they don't listen to us. Well, they listen, but it goes in one ear and out the other.
Some analysts suggest rising Islamic radicalism may have fueled November's French riots. Nonsense, says Ahmed. He says it's to do with being poor and marginalised.
I heard them saying those with the beards were behind the riots. But as if I'm going to tell a kid to burn a car, if they burn cars, it's because they're fed up.
Jamal Ibrahim, who helps organise a small Muslim neighbourhood association, agrees frustration is at the core.
These were a lot of unemployed young people. These weren't young men coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq, burning cars with a Quran in one hand and a sabre in the other, shouting, "Long live bin Laden."
Islam may be the religion here, but soccer is the passion. During a weekend pickup game, it's time to forget about the problems and dream of stardom with Olympique Marseille, Paris Saint-Germain, or if you're Ahmed, Manchester United. They say it's the only entertainment that's affordable and available to them. The game only ends as the sun dips down. Just on the edge of the city of 4,000, another outlet for pent-up aggression. This is Ahmed Karar's School of Hard Knocks, boxing classes for some of the project's teenagers. Karar learned the lessons of life the hard way too. He grew up and still lives in the same project as these teens.
At 13 years old, you can't say he's a gangster or that he is going to end up a criminal. There's good lads, but unfortunately, society has put them in a position they can't get out of.
15-year-old Bilal has vague dreams of one day being a professional prize fighter. For now, though, his sights are set on sticking up for himself in frequent street fights.
If you are in the street and confronted by 3 or 4 guys, it's good to know how to defend yourself.
A year older, his buddy Brahim sees the November riots simply as a backlash by what he believes is the project's forgotten generation. He too insists, though, he didn't take part.
They did that to show that we exist, that we are not idiots and we can do something.
Despite government pledges to improve conditions in the suburbs, Karar feels the outlook for these youngsters is grim.
Deep inside, they know there's no escape. There's no way out. They've got freedom in a cage.
The only sign of hope seems to glimmer from colourful signboards around the project. Promises of new homes on a human scale and vast green spaces. But look behind the signs and hope seems to fade fast. Ahmed points out what's left of the high-rise where he lived with his parents and 5 siblings was demolished 3 years ago. No sign yet of the new houses the government signboards pledge.
It's not me who should be afraid. It's the politicians. I haven't got the keys to the solution. I cannot do anything.
The only thing that seems to be being built here is despair.